What if I told you America's most inescapable prison wasn't? That 3 men might have beaten the rock itself, slipping away under the FBI's nose, never to be seen again. No bodies. No raft. No proof. Just one question that still haunts investigators more than 60 years later: did they survive, or did the Pacific swallow them whole? This is the story of the most legendary prison break in US history. And you're watching it here, on Rivo TV. It was supposed to be impossible. Alcatraz wasn't just a prison, it was a fortress. Built on a 22-acre slab of stone in the middle of San Francisco Bay, it was surrounded by freezing waters, violent tides, and fog so thick it could blind you in seconds. Add in the 15-foot-high fences, armed guards on towers, machine guns, and the brutal isolation, and you had a place that promised one thing: once you got in, you'd never leave. That reputation held strong from 1934 onward. The prison housed gangsters, killers, and bank robbers. It was designed to break men. But on the night of June 11, 1962, 3 inmates did the unthinkable. They escaped. And to this day, nobody knows if they lived to tell the tale. The men were Clarence Anglin, his brother John Anglin, and Frank Morris. All 3 were serving time for bank robbery. But Frank was no ordinary inmate. He was smart, brilliant, even. He'd spent most of his life in and out of prisons, and every time he landed behind bars, he was always looking for a way out. He had a reputation for being calm, calculated, and resourceful. And then there was Allen West. He was the 4th man, and the one who first saw the crack in Alcatraz's armor. West had tried to escape from nearly every prison he'd been sent to. When he arrived on the rock, he started studying every corner, every detail. Sometime around 1960, he noticed something: the ventilation grates in the cells. The concrete around them was weak, crumbling. If chipped away slowly enough, it might be widened into a hole big enough to crawl through. There was just one problem: the men weren't even in the same block. But luck, or fate, intervened. Over time, all 4 were moved into neighboring cells in cell block B. And that's when the plotting began. For 2 years, they lived double lives. By day, they were just another set of prisoners. By night, they were engineers, craftsmen, and escape artists, quietly working toward freedom. They began with the vents. Using spoons stolen from the cafeteria and a homemade drill fashioned out of a vacuum cleaner motor, they slowly chipped away at the walls. The work was tedious. Loud noises risked discovery, so they timed their scraping during music hour or when the prison was already buzzing. Inch by inch, they widened the holes. And to cover their progress, they crafted fake vent covers from cardboard and paint, blending them perfectly into the cell walls. Behind those holes was a hidden world, an unguarded utility corridor that no one was watching. A maze of pipes and shadows leading straight up to the roof. It was the perfect blind spot. But freedom meant crossing the bay. The water was ice cold, between 50 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit, with currents strong enough to drag Olympic swimmers under. Swimming was suicide. So they needed something more. Raincoats. Prison issued, cheap, and rubbery. Over months, they stole more than 50 of them. Using steam pipes to melt and seal the material, they stitched together a raft, an inflatable raft, with seams so airtight it could carry 3 men across the water. They even made life vests and paddles. The ingenuity was staggering. Everything was ready for June 11, 1962. That night, the men slipped through their vents, crawled through the corridor, climbed onto the roof, shimmied down a pipe, and carried their gear to the shoreline. But one of them didn't make it. Allen West, the man who had come up with the plan, couldn't squeeze out. His vent had hardened, and he was stuck. He tried desperately to chip it open wider, but by the time he finally made progress, his partners were gone. Crushed, he returned to his cell and waited. By dawn, he would be the one to tell investigators how it all went down. Meanwhile, the Anglin brothers and Frank Morris vanished into the night. The next morning, guards conducted roll call. Everything looked normal. At least, until one guard tried to wake Frank Morris. The head on the pillow rolled onto the floor and shattered. It wasn't real. None of them were real. The prisoners had crafted dummy heads out of plaster, soap, and human hair stolen from the prison barbershop. Painted flesh tones, even eyelashes, the decoys were so lifelike that guards had been fooled all night. Panic erupted. The island went into full lockdown. Searchlights swept the bay. Coast Guard boats scoured the waters. Helicopters roared overhead. But the men were gone. What investigators found only deepened the mystery. A few days later, near Angel Island, they recovered a waterproof pouch made from raincoats. Inside were personal items, photos, letters, even phone numbers. Things no one planning a new life would willingly abandon. They also found a homemade paddle. But there was no raft. No bodies. Nothing else. The FBI took over. For 17 years, they chased every lead. Their official conclusion: the men drowned. Between the cold, the waves, and the currents pulling out toward the Pacific, survival seemed impossible. The raft, they believed, fell apart. The men succumbed to hypothermia, their bodies swept away, never to be seen. But the problem was, there was never proof. No bodies washed ashore. No remains were ever found. And over the years, rumors only grew louder. The Anglin family claimed they received and signed Christmas cards for years after the escape, signed only with the brothers' names. At their mother's funeral, they swore two tall women with heavy makeup appeared, quietly watching from the back. Women nobody recognized. Women who never spoke. To the family, it was obvious, John and Clarence, in disguise. Then came the photo. In 2013, a History Channel documentary revealed an image taken in Brazil in 1975. Two older men, sitting at a bar. Both bore striking resemblances to the Anglin brothers. Facial recognition experts were split. Some said it was a match. Others weren't convinced. But the mystery only deepened. As for Frank Morris, he disappeared like a ghost. Whispers suggested he made it to Mexico. Others claimed he lived quietly under a false identity. But nothing was ever confirmed. Today, the U.S. Marshals Service still keeps the case open. Their stance is simple: until the men are proven dead, captured, or reach the age of 99, the hunt continues. Alcatraz itself closed less than a year after the escape. Officially, the government blamed costs. But many believe the embarrassment of the escape played its part. Now, the Rock is a tourist attraction. Visitors walk through the same blocks, stare into the same cells, and peer at the tiny holes chipped away with spoons. They see the dummy heads, eerily lifelike, and wonder, did they really pull it off? 3 men who defied the impossible. 3 men who may have beaten the most secure prison in America. Did they vanish into the sea? Or into history as the only men to ever escape Alcatraz alive? The truth remains locked away, either in the waves of San Francisco Bay, or in the lives those men may have built somewhere far from the Rock. And that's why, even after 60 years, we still can't stop asking, did they make it? This is Rivo TV. Thanks for watching.